everybody. Welcome in to the Maize and Blues. Good afternoon, Michigan football. I'm Dennis Fithian. It's Thursday the 10th, 1 o'clock. And we are here live weekdays at 1 o'clock talking about the latest in Michigan sports. And today it's a very newsy Thursday. A lot of different things happening over the last hour or so. Some small items to get you up to speed on. I was going to tell you what all those are right out of the gate, but let me give you a couple different things that we'll be talking about, and then we'll get to those newsy items. Plus, I got a question of the day for you. I do want to tell everybody, you want to know everything that's happening with this Michigan football team that's trying to get to the national championship game. Yeah, they've got to get to the college football playoffs before to Indianapolis and beat Ohio State and win these two home games that are in front of them. But you want to know what's going on, the latest on the injury front, recruiting front, everything that's going on. You should already be joined up with the Maize and Blue Review, and you would know all those things. But if you're not, there's great opportunity to get involved. Go to michigan.rivals.com. You get 50% off your first year, and you get full access right now. Use the promo code MBR1year. That's MBR1year. Maize and Blue Review, michiganrivals.com, and you'll be all set with that. We've got some transfer portal buzz that we are going to let you know about coming up over this next hour. I'm going to talk about JJ McCarthy and the passing game for Michigan. And I'm also asking you the question, I want you to give me a couple things that are on your to-do list for Michigan Saturday against Nebraska. And I'm asking you to do that. You go ahead and use the feedback feature, and we put your answers up on the screen. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, we also do that in real time. That makes it a lot of fun. But we'll start with talking about Michigan and Nebraska. And, it's just listening to the defensive coordinator from Nebraska. I want to thank Inside Nebraska for this audio. Michigan's now a 30.5-point favorite, and their defensive coordinator was, asked about how he's going to stop Michigan, and he didn't have a whole lot of answers, but this was his best answer. This is Nebraska defensive coordinator Bill Busch.
So they're constantly preparing themselves to play on Saturday. So no different like that. There will be, because that stuff I learned that really, really fast, is like that. Some sort of, we're not watching Hoosiers or something before the game, like that. We're just going to get 11 guys out there and line up and play defense.
Yeah, so, we're looking at this, but, Nebraska on their side, they've got turmoil with their team, with a suspension. We've got news with their starting quarterback that we will get to straight ahead. But, yeah, they're not playing this like, the Hoosiers, the great movie about Hickory going all the way to the state championship and winning it, where, the best line is when the preacher comes in and recites the story about, David taking a rock and slinging it at the Philistine or the Buckeye and hitting him right between the eyes. And, I say Buckeyes because I call them Philistines, but, Michigan, as we count down, whatever it is, 16 days, they're not going to need to be in any David and Goliath type situation. They're going to be standing toe-to-toe with Ohio State. And as the days go by, and certainly as these games have gone by, Michigan looks like they're going to have a real nice opportunity, to beat Ohio State. And I said it yesterday on the Den on the Maize and Blue Review, and the first comment came back is that, Michigan also was looking pretty good in 2018 against Ohio State, and that's true. They were looking really good in 2018. Michigan was a favorite. They were 4.5-point favorite. And I had I'd said all year long, I'm not going to be talked into, taking Michigan down at Ohio State, but then every game, the way Michigan played, and every game that Ohio State played, you had to pick Michigan in that game. And then they went down there and gave up 62 points. So, yeah, it's different now. The lay of the land's different for Michigan, mostly because they went down there and actually won last year. So, they know they can do it. They don't have to come up with any kind of us against the world and we can't do it or anything else. They know they can do it. Well, Michigan, as they sit here, it's a 3:30 game. Michigan's a 30.5-point favorite against the Cornhuskers. You're going to get Mark Jones on the call, along with RG3, the former Heisman Trophy winner, who I just saw on Twitter. RG3 put out his, he had a list on it looked like about 10 players, and, former players or former winners get a vote. So RG3, he's got a vote. You know who RG3 had number 1 on his Heisman Trophy list? Blake Corum, number 1 for RG3. I'm sure he'll point that out at some point on ABC on Saturday that he's got Blake Corum, number 1 on his list, as U of M looks to go 10-0 for the first time under Jim Harbaugh. That's right. They were 9-0 back there in 2016. You remember that. They lost to Iowa. Well, Spate was hurt in that game. They had a chance on offense. They had a chance on defense. They had a chance on special teams. And that low-scoring game, they couldn't get it done. And then they did lose to Ohio State. That was the last time Michigan started 8-0. Or I'm sorry, 9-0. They lost to Iowa, and then they lost the memorable double overtime game to Ohio State when it was a very close call at the end with JT Barrett. You probably do recall that. But, Michigan's got a lot of nice numbers. Let's look at what's top of mind right now as you think about this game. Casey Thompson, the quarterback for Nebraska, is doubtful. In fact, we've got breaking news on that front. That's the breaking news sounder. Casey Thompson, the starting quarterback from Nebraska, has been ruled out. I don't think he practiced. He was, one guy, a reporter, had said he was out there, but then there was another reporter saying that Thompson hadn't taken any reps throwing the ball this week. And then finally today, they just went ahead and said, no, he's out. He's not going to play against Michigan. So they'll go have 2 backups. Maybe they'll play both. We'll see. But that's a big blow for Nebraska. Also, a little bit of turmoil, disarray in Lincoln as their starting safety, Miles Farmer, has been suspended for the game coming up this Saturday in Ann Arbor because of a DUI this past weekend. So that's not good for Nebraska, and he will miss this game with suspension. Now, Michigan on the injury front, you'll remember the last game, Ryan Hayes, Makari Page, Jalen Harrell, Roman Wilson, Jaimon Green, Khalil Mullings. It's a long list of guys that missed the Rutgers game. I have Trevor Keegan's name listed as well. This is my own injury report as I take a look at it. These guys all have question marks next to them, although Harbaugh made it sound like Hayes could have gone last week, and he also made it sound like he could go this week. So I'll say probable for Ryan Hayes coming back. I would also say doubtful for Trevor Keegan, who was seen limping around on the sideline at Rutgers. So you might get one back on the left side. You might have one sitting down on the left side. Page, Harrell, Wilson, Green, Mullings, I don't know. Anywhere from, I would put him in the probable category. Actually, all of those guys I would put him in the probable category, but they were all in the probable category last week, and they sat him down. So 30.5-point favorite, what it comes down to, whether you want to give a guy, one more week to see if he, whatever you always say everybody's banged up at this time of the year. So whether they're like 80%, like if this week was Ohio State, maybe all of those guys could play. It's not against Ohio State. It's against Nebraska. So maybe a couple of those guys do not see the field. We'll have to wait until Saturday to find out about that. On Thursdays, I like going over some of the numbers. And with Michigan right now as the number 3 team in the country, you probably expect this, but if you're a Michigan fan, it's fun. It's fun right now to look at the numbers. Michigan has a lot of glowing numbers going for them. Let's read some of these numbers off for you, just as it applies to the Nebraska game coming up on Saturday. In conference games only, Michigan has the number 2 offense in the conference. Nebraska, the number 11 offense in the Big Ten. Michigan has the number 1 defense in the Big Ten. Nebraska has the 10th ranked defense. So huge disparity there for the Cornhuskers. Big disparity in Vegas. This is as you look at the tail of the tape, totally one-sided. Everything looks maize and blue for Saturday. I know you've heard those kind of things before. It was the same thing against Rutgers. Then they found themselves down at the half. I know that's fair. There's a little bit of Michigan have been Jekyll and Hyde this year, and it really goes back to, I don't know, it was 17-13 at the half against Maryland, so it was a 1-score game. Sure, you'd like to be up 3 scores at the half and have the game over like it was against, Hawaii, where it was 42-0. That game looked like it was over after the first series. Those games were all over even before they kicked the ball off. But Maryland, it was kind of close. Remember, Indiana, it was tied at the half. It was just a 2-point lead against Penn State, even though they were dominating. Michigan State, they were only up by 5, and then they were down against Rutgers. This team, if you're talking about Michigan at this point, you're really like a lot of numbers, but if you're going to be, it's like you'd want to be a fourth quarter team. How you finish and when you make the plays. And money time, that's what you really want. You want to be a fourth quarter team. And you would rather be a second half team than a first half team. You would like to be a complete team across all 4 quarters, not having to get into the second half. These are some small things that we talk about. But it made me think today, as I was thinking about Michigan and them being this Jekyll and Hyde team in the Big Ten in terms of how they play in the first half and second half, I thought about 1997. And Michigan was a really good second half team in 97. Against Notre Dame, the second game of the year, Michigan turned the ball over 3 times in the fourth quarter against Notre Dame, and the defense came up big 3 times. You turned the ball over 3 times in the fourth quarter against a pretty good football team. A lot of times you lose. They didn't. But the thing that I recall, and I didn't go back and check out every single game and the play-by-play. But on my memory of 25 years ago, Michigan was not a very good first series team. So whenever they were playing, the opposing team would get the ball. Whenever they got it, they'd go right down the field on Jim Herman's defense and score. And it was like, it felt like, 25 years ago now, I'll be talking about it, clockwork. All of these teams right down the field. But then after that, they slammed the door. The Michigan defense was awesome. And, they were undefeated. They won the national championship. But, even the 97 team, it's not like they were all 4 quarters. They had first drive issues. It must have been great adjustments over there. Let's see what they come out with, whatever they have scripted. All right, now put the screws to them and let's, get after them now. But that was something about that 97 team when I was thinking about this year's team being the second half team. The 97 team was after the first drive adjustment team. This is a halftime adjustment team. But looking further into the stats, it's really good for Michigan. It's a fun exercise to do, and I've done it for you. You think about Ohio State now, and I like, Harbaugh, of course they're just thinking about Nebraska, because if they don't beat Nebraska, and if they don't beat Illinois, the Ohio State game's not going to be for everything. Like, you always say, like, beat Ohio State and everything's fine. There's some truth to that. There's a lot of truth to that. But you got to take care of everything else. Like last year, what made last year so great for Michigan is that the Big Ten championship was on the line. Like if Michigan would have lost to Penn State and they had lost to Michigan State, and they beat Ohio State, but they didn't get to go to Indianapolis, it would have been nice. Don't get me wrong. They get that monkey off their back, but it also wouldn't have been the greatest thing ever. Last year was the greatest thing ever. They were able to validate that win by beating Iowa and then going to the college football playoff. And of course, it would have even been more. It would have even meant more if somehow they would have been able to beat Georgia and then beat Alabama, then win it all. But, we know it still was pretty good. But how about this collision course stat for you? Michigan and Ohio State are the only two teams in college football, the only two FBS teams in the country with top 10 rankings in both scoring offense and both scoring defense. That's a nice stat for Michigan. Nice stat for Ohio State, too. You want some more stats that are nice for the Wolverines? I looked at some of the stats nationally and where Michigan ranks. How about rushing defense? Michigan is number 1 in the country in rushing defense, giving up just 72.4 yards per game. Good stat. Number 1. Michigan is number 2 nationally in total defense in the country, yielding just over 242 yards a game, 242.4 to be exact. And scoring defense, Michigan is number 3 nationally, giving up a paltry 12.1 points per game. Number 1 in rushing defense, number 2 in total defense, number 3 in scoring defense. That's good. And you say, what about the offense? I'm glad you asked. That's a good question. What about the offense? Where do they rank? We've seen the Big Ten rankings, but what about nationally? Nationally, Michigan has the 5th best scoring offense in the country, averaging 42.4 points per game. Number 5 scoring offense in the nation. That's good. Michigan has the 4th best rushing attack in the nation, with an even 250 yards a game with Lightning and Lightning. Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards. Those statistics are fun. They are telling. They should make you feel good if you're a Michigan fan about this team and where they are going. A lot of good things there when it comes down to Michigan. So I ask you to give me a couple things that are on your to-do list. Let's take some of those right now against Nebraska. You know, part of me just wants to say, just win the game. But you know what? It's more than just win the game for Michigan. And if you could tell me that, like, you know, there's going to be an Ohio State, that's fine. But I'll put a contingency plan together in case they play a really close game against Ohio State, and then they're going to be a one-loss team, and they got to worry about the Pac-12 one-loss team. They got to worry about an ACC. They got to worry about a Big 12. They worry about all kinds of things. 2-loss teams. Lots to worry about Michigan making the college football playoff if somehow they don't beat Ohio State. Beat Ohio State. Then you don't have to worry about any contingency plans. But if they don't and they play a close game, they would like to just blow the doors off of every team, you know, and then play a really, if they want to beat Ohio State, but playing a really tight game. So win by 20 or 30 points, cover the spread against Nebraska. So, you know, they're in a spot where, yeah, they want to win, but they want to win big. Like, it doesn't matter if they really move up the next 2 weeks and flip-flop with Ohio State. If Ohio State doesn't look all that good and you're going with a beauty contest in a college football playoff, doesn't matter to me. Maybe it does to you, but it doesn't to me if Michigan is number 2 and Ohio State's 3 in that college football playoff rankings. It's all coming down to if Michigan wins that game, they don't have to worry about anything. They control their own destiny. It's the contingency plan where you start saying, hey, you better do everything else that you can. So there's those 2 little things that I'm thinking about when it comes down to it. Account 22 has a to-do list. He wants 5 or more sacks. He wants Nebraska under 150 yards passing, under 75 yards rushing. He wants over 2 turnovers, 2+ turnovers. Offense, 3+ passing touchdowns. Ooh, that would be a nice one. That'd make you feel good. And in addition, specifically, 2 deep ball attempts per quarter. Wow, that is pretty specific. That's a pretty good to-do list, account 22. I'm gonna send that one on down to the football office. I think that's a nice one. Harbaugh's always looking over there. You see him during the game, and if you're just listening to the podcast, he's got some piece of paper over there. He's always scribbling something down, writing somebody down. Maybe he's looking at account 22 and the list that I'll send over there. I'll email it to him, and maybe he's like, things are going really well, and he'll take a look and say, what's account 22 want me to do? Oh, I better take some more deep shots. Good list. I like it. Send that one on down to him right now. Chris's to-do list, he's making a point about top 15 teams are 11-1 when playing at home this season. The loss being Penn State, losing to Ohio State. How much does playing at the Shoe impact this game, in your opinion? Not weather-related. Big time. Playing at home, playing on the road is a real big deal in college football. It's a real big deal for Michigan. We referenced 2018 when Michigan was a 4.5-point favorite. They gave up 62 points. Michigan has not won at Ohio State since the year 2000. I've only been to Columbus 2 times to watch games. One was in 98. They lost. In 2000, behind Drew Henson, they won. 22 years ago. So it's a pretty big deal. It's a very tough place to play. No duh. It's a tough play. It's one of the most difficult places to play in the country. No, it's a pretty big deal. Defense travels, so does line play, according to account 22. I would agree with that. Dooney Dunn on the instant message says he has a question. Let's see. Now that Cade is out for the season, is JJ going to be coached to be really cautious running the ball and or very limited in run plays? Or at this point, is caution just thrown to the wind? Good question. Very good question. I don't think maybe there was a chance that Cade could have come back in these games here. He still was dealing with that knee. They didn't know if it was going to be up to him. Maybe he could have played through it. Maybe he couldn't have. Would he have been available against Michigan State if they needed him? I don't know that. I don't think prior to that he would have been available. So I think they've already had this built in about Cade being the backup. I don't know if he would have been available in any of these games. Maybe he would have been, like I said, against Michigan State. He didn't travel to Piscataway. So obviously there's going to be no restrictions about running against Ohio State. I would think that, and just watching him, he gets it. I don't think he did get it, certainly against Maryland, where he was running around figure eights, and then and even against Iowa, he had the fumble down by the goal line. But since then, he's doing a much better job. I knew he threw a pick in the Indiana game, but pocket presence, being able to, when he runs, slide down. He did take a big shot against Rutgers there on the sideline, a huge shot. You don't want to see many of those. I would think that that when they talk to him, they would say, if it's there, go ahead and run, but let's not, get out of bounds against Rutgers. When they watch that film, he could have, maybe put the football, get out of bounds. The extra half yard, even if it's for a first down, unless you're getting into the fourth quarter and it's a 1-score game. Look, in sports, everything is situational. Clock, score. Everything's going to have to do with that. But I would think that in the first half against Nebraska, and they would talk about this, don't go, we don't need the extra half yard for you, JJ. We don't need you to, we can get the extra yard wherever it's at. They get into the fourth quarter, that could be different. Time and score. And I think that will be, they will talk about that when he is meditating under the goalpost and thinking about that. He'll just think, just go ahead and, play it cool. When to get down. When not to take the big hit. You know you can get that first down and go ahead and just slide down. You know you can live to see another down, JJ. I think all those things will get into play. I like the question. Spent a long time on that one. All right. Yeah, I hear you, Chris. I think we went through there. Home field advantage is worth a hell of a lot, for sure. Let's see. Account 22 putting some more statistics out here. I'm not going to check them. I'm just going to throw them out there. I'm going to trust that the stats you're looking up are correct, because I'm going to read it. Nebraska, 102nd in sacks allowed. That's a lot. Harb said Wilson is back this week. That would be nice. Give Trevor another week and get him good for Illinois. Hey, look. Get him ready. Yeah, as soon as possible, whatever else. Have him for Ohio State. Certainly for Ohio State. They could probably, all those guys that I listed earlier, they could probably do without all of those guys until Ohio State. I'd like to have everybody possible, obviously, for Ohio State. D. Brown thinks every team that has beat Nebraska this year has lost their following game. What's up with that? I would have to go through and take a look at that. I'm going to say an anomaly. Those things happen. It's weird. I don't think Nebraska, if they ran some sort of, quirky, like if it was like an Army type offense where you had to prepare for them, and then so you got off script next week, or if there was some like overly aggressive defense that, you really, everybody would be like, man, you play that team, they just wear you down. You look at Nebraska, they don't really have any of those markings. Like they're just a regular football team that doesn't have their quarterback, and, they just really, aren't all that good. So there's nothing to look at where I would say that it's something, about that. I don't think so. Yeah. Just more numbers. Nebraska total defense 115. Rutgers 18th. No black shirts. Ringo with a question. Let's see what his question is. We'll read it. How should they balance Blake's Heisman race versus limiting his snaps and staying healthy in potentially a non-competitive game? Well, great question. You've got your plan going in, and I don't think you alter it too much in the first half. You see how it goes. You give Blake you treat him like the running back that you've treated him all along. He's going to be pretty much the bell cow. You're going to mix Donovan Edwards in there, and then you're going to get to the second half. If I wanted to say what the best case scenario is, I would like to see Michigan up 30-0 at the half. I'd like to see them come out in the second half and, have one great drive, get up 37-0, and then really clear the benches. Get all of the backups in there. Get them some time on offense and on defense. But in that perfect situation, hopefully, if you're looking at Blake Corum, his carries are under 20, and he's over 100 yards, and he's gone into the end zone. If you're up 30-0 at the half, and Blake Corum's already over 100 yards, and he already has a touchdown, you just come out and say, look, we're going to have one drive, and, we're going to get ready for Illinois. Great work this week, guys. Those are the best laid plans. I was saying the same thing against Rutgers, and then here, they were down. It's not like you can get into the fourth quarter and he's got 25 carries and it's a one-score game. So it's everything, time and score again. If, let's say Michigan is up big, 37-7, and they're going into the fourth quarter, Corum's already had 25 carries, and you'd like to keep him under 25. I think we could all agree with that. But let's say he has 80 yards and no touchdowns. If you're Jim Harbaugh, do you say, hey, we're thinking about Illinois, and we're thinking about a Big Ten championship. You are also thinking about the Heisman Trophy. And it's not just for Blake. A Heisman Trophy is for the offensive line. It's for the offense. It's for the defense. It's for the team. It's for the program. It's for recruiting. It's for everything. So you go over there and you bring everybody in and you huddle them in and you say, guys, this is a Heisman Trophy drive for Blake. He's got 80 yards. We need 20 yards for Corum and we need a touchdown. Now go out there and do it. And I think that they would do something like that. So it comes into play. That's just one of many examples, but the best thing is get a big lead, have him with a couple touchdowns and have him over 100 yards and you're good to go. Andre's already putting the RIP out for Nebraska. Minter has been incredible this season. Dune E. Dunn says. He won't be here long, unfortunately. Is there anyone else on the Ravens we can get next? I hadn't thought about that. I hadn't thought about Minter, leaving after this year. Look, when you have a good football team and you have a lot of success, other programs are going to come and try to get your coaches. I mean, that's just part of the deal. Look, I had a guy call me today, and he's like, he asked me, what do you think is going to happen when Jim Irsay throws a blank check at Jim Harbaugh after the season and wants him to coach the Colts? And I said, yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. I didn't even cross my mind. And I said, look, and he said, I know that what Jim Harbaugh said after last season. I said, right, I'm going to take him for his word there. I'm also going to think that Jim Harbaugh could use that leverage because Jim Irsay really does love Jim Harbaugh. He's the one that called him Captain Comeback. So could I see a situation where he says, I'll give Jim Harbaugh, the son of the moon, $14 million. Every coach in the world has always said one thing and things change. Sure, that's a possibility. And Harbaugh could also look at that and say, hey, I'm going to leverage this for every single thing I need with my coaches, with a name, image, and likeness. I look at it as a positive. Good, Jim Irsay, come after Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh, if he really wants to go, hey, those things happen. I don't want to think about it. I'm not saying that he will, but I'm saying that he could use that for leverage to get even more things that he would want. He could go to Santa and say, Santa, I know you've just come to town. And I know you wouldn't think it would be kind of naughty and not so nice if I just said something last year and I'd be out of here. But I'm getting a huge sack, Santa, from Irsay. And name, image, and likeness needs to be a big, some gift giving. Don't pout, don't cry. Let's get after this. So all of those things can happen. Along with just like time and score, good teams, winning records, championships, other teams are coming after your coaches. All of that happens. It's part and parcel to having a good football program. Antoine is telling me that he told me so. I told you. I thought our defense was going to be just as good, if not better. And everybody thought I was crazy when I said that, but I study. Yeah, Antoine, in the number, you kept saying that, and I kept thinking, the coach is a little bit of a homer here. That's what I was thinking, Antoine, honestly. I was thinking that you were sounding a little bit like a homer. Michigan, they'll just pick up, they'll even be better. Hutchinson, number 2, who cares? Ajabo would have been a first-rounder. They'll just throw a bunch of different guys at him, and collectively they'll do it. They'll be a better defense than they were last year. Antoine kept saying it. He kept saying that Ohio State wasn't going to be all that good either. That they were going to be soft and that Michigan could run the ball on him and that he wasn't all scared about going out to Columbus. And again, I just thought, it's good. It's good to be confident, be a fan and all that. But that's what I put that in that category, Antoine. And at this point right now, you're looking pretty smart. I do have to, you're looking, we go back and dig up all those feedbacks when I was like, okay, Antoine, yeah, Michigan's great. They're going to have a better defense. Okay. Andre sees 500 yards on offense distributed it equally between the pass and the rush. He'd like to see multiple sacks and turnovers, a completely dominant performance. The to-do lists are really good today. I have to admit that. You want something else? The transfer portal is buzzing. The rumors are buzzing. And I just wanted to tell you that I think there is something to it. There is a big-time Big Ten running back that could look to the maize and blue in December and jump in that portal and come in to Michigan, assuming Blake Corum goes pro, and team up with Donovan Edwards. That's a possibility, a real possibility for Michigan. So I know we're just thinking about Nebraska. You're just thinking about Ohio State. You're thinking about, this year. And I'm talking about coaches leaving and, transfer portals. But, hey, it's out there. I think there is something to that. And I would also keep an eye on the West Coast and a Pac-12 running back that's thinking Michigan and transfer portal as well. Pretty highly touted guy. I don't remember his name specifically. I Stanford, maybe. So you could check those things out. I think that there's some legitimacy. Josh Henschke on the Maize and Blue Review. This is another time I can go ahead and tell you should be in there. He's lined it all up where you know exactly what's going on. I was looking there and I thought I would mention it, but he's right up on all of this. And in the days and weeks ahead, it'll materialize. The thing is, you get to know the days and weeks way prior to everyone else, certainly a couple of days before all of our rival sites. You get to know it. That's one of the advantages of signing up to the Maize and Blue Review. So if that's something that, is interest of you, knowing exactly what's going on, I'd have to rely on, somebody poaching info and coming out on a podcast or something like that. Whatever you want to do. There is something about that transfer portal. However, all right, the last thing I want to get to, I'll get to some more of your to-do list, but this is from just thinking about JJ McCarthy. And, Michigan has all this stuff going for him, the number 3 and everything else, but we'd all like to see the downfield passing game just be a little bit better. And I asked a question to myself: how much better is McCarthy from game 1 till now? Now, he didn't start game 1. He came off the bench, but he was great. He was so good that in game 2, he came out, played great, and then he's been the starter ever since, and he'll start his 9th game coming up on Saturday. He's improved in so many areas. The ball security. He looks so much more comfortable running the offense when you think about what he was doing against Maryland. His completion percentage is so high because when he is out there, he has a quick release. He can get that ball, bam, it's out. Very impressive. And he can put it on the receiver. The short to intermediate throws that he makes, he's very accurate, and he's very good at that. When he rolls to his right, he looks very savvy and under control, like slow motion, and is able to, go through some progressions there and find his receiver. So he's really good also throwing the ball down the sideline and down the seam. There have been a couple other throws. You think about Andrell Anthony, you think the one that he was trying to squeeze into Schoonmaker, some of these other ones. He can improve throwing a more catchable deep ball. And, listening to Matt Weiss, Michigan's co-offensive coordinator, when he said, he feels good about it, it's because they do we see 3 or 4 plays during a game, and we're like, it needs to do better. It needs a little more air, a little more touch, a little more accuracy down the field. And then Weiss is like, they have 80 of those type of plays during practice, and they feel really good about him, being able to do that. And maybe it feels like a little bit like if he would have connected to Anthony or the true freshman Walker would have been able to haul that one in where he was kind of down on his knees almost. Now maybe it would break the seal with his downfield passing game. Sometimes it's like that. I also think when they get down in the red zone, they haven't thrown fades. And you'd say, well, why wouldn't they have done that? Well, they must practice that a hell of a lot, especially when they were really heading into the Rutgers game. Everybody was saying your red zone touchdown efficiency needs to get a lot better. I was saying the same thing. And so if McCarthy was really good at throwing fades, I think they would have done it. I don't think they're like saving it up for something. He just must, whatever it involves, throwing that fade, the touch, maybe the receiver I mean, they've got Kojo. He can go up and get it. They just must feel that throwing to more of a still target wherever, that's just where, his game is at. That's how I see the passing game. A lot of times just watching quarterbacks forever. When you have a running quarterback, and even the ones that have the great arms, like being the pure passer, like there's not many guys that can both run, have a rocket arm, and then you would say, just pure pocket passers. I mean, those are as rare as, Mahomes could do it. Mahomes is great. There's a few other. They're all the pros, it seems like, and they're all making, $150 million. So this is where you all want to. This is the next step for McCarthy. The arm strength is there, but being able to, and you think you can develop more touch. And when I say accuracy, you say, but look at his completion percentage. What are you talking about? I'm talking about down the field. That's what I'm talking about. And, so a little bit more pace, a little bit more catchable deep ball, that taking that next step to be a pure passer, putting the ball on the receiver. If he's able to do that, well, then we're talking about him, taking the next step where, he might need that. They might be able to beat Ohio State even without that part. Obviously, that would help. Winning a national championship, you'd think, you would have to have a little bit of that. Making some big plays down the field. Vertical passing game. Obviously, he wanted to be a first-round draft pick. Being able to show, that aspect of the game, pretty important. That's the goal. He wants to do it. Seems like he's got all of that in the toolbox. Seems like he has the coach. But should we expect it? That's a question. That's a question for you. It's also a question for me. It's a question for Harbaugh. And I would love to ask him when he didn't know the reporters around. I'm a reporter, but you get what I mean. Like if I was down there and the next available media session, not after the game on Saturday, maybe Monday. And if I said, Jim, do you expect JJ McCarthy to be a better passer in these last two games? This is after Saturday's game. I think he would say, yeah, he does expect that. That's what the goal is. And, he's getting there. And we see a lot of really nice things. It's just about doing it. We love JJ. I mean, he says all of that. I think he would say that even if he's like, yeah, you're telling me we'd love to see it. I think you don't get that real answer from him. And you're asking yourself, you're hoping that he's going to be able to do that. And I think we've asked this same question now for a few weeks in a row. Hell, going back to Iowa, I'd like to hit a deep pass. Well, what about IU? I'd like to see a little bit more of the vertical passing game. Well, Penn State, how about some deep shots? Connected now with some deep shots. How about against the Spartans? How about against the Ruck? I mean, against the Scarlet Knights, we have asked this question for months now. So, I still think it can happen, but I think that we're going to need to see it over these next 2 weeks to feel like that they're going to have at least this bullet in their gun when they're going down to Columbus, and this bullet in their gun if they're going to go further in the college football playoff and have a chance to win it all. And they could do that. You want somebody to definitively slam it on a table and say that they're going to be able to do it and all that? Like, okay, that's where you get to be a little bit of a homer. I hope they do, and I hope he does. And then you go through and you say all that. I do still think that Michigan could beat Ohio State being able to play the way that they played right now. Really good defense, getting after the quarterback and running the ball and throwing the ball, and then JJ using his legs. I think they could beat Ohio State with what we have seen so far, and yet they still have a room to improve. I know all teams do, but just looking at Michigan, that's the spot. That's going to take them from beating Ohio State and being the Big Ten champ to being a national champ. I think that's the step that they have to take, and those are the things that's on my to-do list. My to-do list is, seeing some pure passing down the field. I don't know what I might sit around on Monday, heck, Saturday after the game, if we're seeing some deep shots, some guys connected out of the field. It's going to be like, what else do you want? You've got every single thing that you want. You're undefeated. You're the number 3 team in the country. Now you've got, McCarthy, who can run the ball like Josh Allen. Now he's throwing the ball like Patrick Mahomes. I mean, look, what you got Blake Corum on the front page of the Heisman Trophy. What else do you want? It's coming together. I think it can come together. That's the idea. That's what you've always hoped for. There have been a lot of years where it hasn't happened, and then you're sitting here right in the middle of it happening. How do you feel, Michigan fans? I know how you feel. You feel pretty good. I know you're cautious. You're worried about Saturdays. You're worried about everything. It's understandable. You're in the middle of it all. A lot of good things for Michigan. We'll wrap this one up with looking at the to-do list and what people are saying. If they have anything more on their to-do list. Let's see what this one's saying about $5 or what everything else. If it was a blizzard in Columbus, I think Day would have. I tell you what, a blizzard. How about just a little bit of snow, Coach? Give me a little bit of snow down there. JC, how can we really gauge how much better he really is if he doesn't get to throw much as he's able to? Well, they wanted him to throw against Rutgers. You could see that was part of the game plan. Let's get some downfield passing. Let's take the top off the defense, and they're going to try to do that again this week. You got your game plan, and then you get a punt blocked. The next thing you know, you start talking like Mike Tyson. Everybody's got a game plan until they get punched in the face. Yeah, Michigan's game plan is to get McCarthy some connections down the field with his wide receivers. I guarantee it. You don't have to, talk to a coach or we're not stupid. Like, we all understand. And Harbaugh knows that. I don't think he's keeping himself up at night. I think he's thinking, you know what? I think he sits around with his coaches and says, guys, today's a great day. We're right where we want to be. Let's just go out there. And he'll say something like, let it rip. But man, we are close to taking this thing to the next level, to playing our best football. I would bet you, it's not a whole lot, admittedly. I'd bet you everything that I had. That's almost exactly what Harbaugh is saying right now to his coaches. Guys, we are doing a hell of a job. Let's keep doing what we're doing. And when that comes down to the offense, we are close. Everything's in front of us. Everything that you want. All of the goals are there, and it could happen. We get a long-range forecast. I'll take it. What do you got? Dooney done with the long-range forecast. Long-term forecast for November the 26th, 53 degrees and rainy on November the 26th. Going to be mild. Wouldn't mind a downpour. I'm sitting out there, and maybe they said it was going to be 70 degrees and beautiful outside in Washtenaw County in southeast Michigan. I didn't know that. Like, you're right. I mean, you said we're talking about 16 days. A lot can happen. Rain. I'll take a little wind. I'll take a little rain. JC wants to see the red zone, having the receivers. I think they're focusing on that a little bit. They would like to see it. Look, when it comes down to the red zone, and I've seen them have designed runs for McCarthy. I have seen them. They blew it. The play call against Michigan State where they threw to, I think it was Roman Wilson at the 5, 3rd and goal from the 8. I mean, I don't understand what they were doing on that. I'm sure when they got into the film room, they're like, well, we blew that one. They deserve, I like how much you want to criticize them, whatever. But, they blew that one. My point to this is you get down to the 5 and you got Blake Corum, you got Keegan and Hayes and, Timmy. I think you get in the huddle and say, guys, bulldoze this son of a bitch right into the end zone. Let's get Blake a touchdown. Boom, boom, boom. That's what their idea is. And I can't fault them too much on that. All right. Do I have to, scream and yell? That's not what somebody said. I'm just asking that myself. All right. One more from the coach. Ohio State's fan base got to be some of the most arrogant people on the planet. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Michigan fan. Just listen to their podcast. Antoine, not only are you listening to some of my competitors' podcasts, I know because you reference it sometimes. You're also listening to the opponent's podcast. I mean, yeah, I don't have any interest in listening to any podcasts from Ohio State. I did in the last month, though. I kind of looked and said, hey, what kind of podcasts are they running down there? And they had these 3 dudes standing around with stick bikes, Hey, Ohio State looks pretty good. Yeah, they do. They have a Tim May. I can remember him. Even when I worked in Ann Arbor, he's been around the block. A lot of interest in Ohio State football. I'm sure they've had a lot of success. You get a team with a lot of success and a gigantic fan base. Columbus fans are some of the most rabid, passionate, crazy, ne'er-do-well Philistines that I've ever encountered. I mean, it is, you would think these guys are all drunk, crazy, should all be in jail. I mean, and that is a pretty good description of an Ohio State fan. Having gone down there twice, having gone out, painting the town red on High Street, 98 with a bunch of Buckeye fans. My God. I'm surprised I made it to the next day with the way they were acting. I didn't realize the complete and utter disgust and hate they have for the whole state of Michigan. They kept singing that song about how they hate the whole state of Michigan. And the more drunk they got, the more they got into my face, and they kept singing it. Did you know we all hate the whole state of Michigan? The whole state of Michigan. And they just kept saying it. And then the one guy, after going to like 6 bars on High Street, and, I'm surprised. I thought maybe he was just going to go push me out into the street. But instead, he got right up into my face. And he said, I'm going to be really honest with you. The thing I hate the most is how you guys steal our players. You don't go and take any more Charles Woodsons or Desmond Howards or Rob Lytles or Marcus Ray. Keep your own players. And it made him so mad that Michigan would get players from the Buckeye State and then take them to Ann Arbor. It is the ultimate sin in the state of Ohio. And their fans are so disgusted by players that would turncoat and go to Michigan. They hate it. Woo. I got to admit, in 98, when I was down there, Michigan was like 10 out of the last 12 games. They were like, I don't know what it was, 9 wins, 1 loss, 1 tie, something like that. I mean, the tables were it was a completely different story. Cooper was pretty good, and they couldn't beat Michigan. It did not matter. Michigan was in their heads, and it was awesome. They hated that. At that time, I could do impersonation of John Cooper where nobody knew the difference. And I was making fun of Ohio State at a bar down there the night before the 98 game, and I thought, you know what? There could be a shot coming up at me. Somebody could. A real shot. Somebody might take me out up here making fun of Ohio State like I was, talking like the coach. But It's different now. Now that they, have a superiority complex, I don't know what it'd be like going down there. Woo! It's wild. It's a wild ride down there in Columbus. I don't know. It's crazy. Blake says they clearly have never been to the western and northern parts of Michigan in the summer. Michigan is awesome. Oh, yeah. How about former Michigan captain texting me? I'm from Ohio. Love kicking that Buckeye ass. They didn't score a TD in my 3 years starting. At that. It's impressive. All right, I'm all wound up, ready for the game. I want to let everyone know that it's a great time to get the Maize and Blue review. Something for the Uber Michigan fan. Jump on in, Maize and Blue review, michigan.rivals.com. You get 50% off your first year. Full access today, promo code MBR1 year. That's MBR1 year. We love the likes, the comments, and the ratings on all of our podcasts and stuff. It almost goes without saying, but I'll say it again. And just think about tomorrow, what we've got going on. We've got both the Michigan football team. It's the eve. It's a Michigan football Friday. And it's also, there's Scar. We've got a Michigan basketball Friday, the Battle of Washtenaw County. One Amani Bates is going to make his debut for the Eagles, going up against Jet Howard and Michigan and Hunter Dickinson. We'll discuss it all tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Going to be great. Great weather up here in Washtenaw County. I want to thank everybody for joining us, and we'll be here tomorrow ready to go. Excited about it. Until then,